an entitled old jerk gets called out for cutting line at a Costco pharmacy, causing him to go in a fit of rage as he said that because he was a veteran, he could eliminate the guy who called him out for cutting in line. And I'm honestly still blown away by this guy's overreaction. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I'm in line at Costco's pharmacy on a busy Friday afternoon. I get in line behind two people and there's no problem so far. That is until I see an entitled old jerk standing a few feet to the right of us, clearly not in line. And here's the thing, sometimes Costco will serve you and tell you to hang by because maybe they're waiting on something, which honestly is no problem for me. Well, that is until one of the two clerks called next. This entitled jerk struts up to the counter, and when I see that, I'm pretty pissed off about it, but so is the first guy in line. He says, "Hey buddy, I believe I was next. I don't think you're in line." This entitled old jerk says,
"I am in line. I'm in this line."
And he literally screamed this in response. He then points and says, "I'm behind her." And he was looking at a lady who was already being helped. The first guy in line says, "Okay man, just go ahead and cut then. We'll just wait over here." And he was positively dripping with sarcasm. Well, when he said this sent this entitled old jerk into turbo mode.
"I've been coming to Costco for 40 years and there have always been two lines. I'm a veteran. This is not how you should be treating me."
And this old entitled jerk was huffing and puffing and scowling the entire time. Well, the guy in front of me said, "I don't care if you fought in World War I, you shouldn't be cutting people in line." Well, when the guy in front of me said that, absolute chaos erupted from this entitled old jerk. He is so mad at this point that he is sputtering, like he can't even get actual words out of his mouth. He then starts to do this kind of laugh, cry, screeching thing in front of all of us, and people are now walking over to look at what is happening. This entitled old jerk then says to this guy,
"I told you I'm a vet. I can eliminate you if I wanted to."
But I then watch as the guy in front of me clenches his fist and he actually steps back into a defensive stance. And this is all about to go down in a Costco of all places. The lady in front of me finally snaps and says, "You two are fully grown men. Stop acting so foolish and act like a man." The entitled old jerk, looking around for someone to back him up, finally looks at me and I just shake my head. I say to him, "I agree with her. You cut in line. You need to own it and be a man." Now by this time, the manager finally comes over. He pulls the entitled old jerk to the side and of course gets him his medicine. The guy in front of me turns around and apologizes to all of us in line and said that he shouldn't have shown up in the way that he did. But the lady and I both agreed that he was right to speak up because that's exactly the way that some of these old entitled jerks do it. Because sometimes you need to fight fire with fire. Wow, imagine being so entitled that you say you're going to eliminate someone in a Costco pharmacy line all because you're the one that cut in line and got called out for it. Talk about overly sensitive and literally going insane at the wrong place at the wrong time. Like, just think about what this guy said. He was implying that he was going to unalive this guy all because he called him out and said, "Wow, you cut in line, good job." Like, that just might be the overreaction of a century. But even with that outburst from the old entitled jerk, I still think that everybody else involved in the story is completely in the right. Because for starters, that guy was clearly lying about having two lines. And even if that was the case 40 years ago, it clearly was not the case today. So why on earth would he think it's appropriate to walk forward with such entitlement, as if he owns the place and has every right to get in front of everybody else? So truly good for you and everybody else in that line for calling this guy out, because his behavior was absolutely disrespectful, and he definitely deserved to be put in his place. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my mom's husband that I never considered asking him to walk me down the aisle since he is not someone who raised me and he only entered my family's life a couple of years ago? Because right now he is very offended that I turned him down, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female and I'm engaged right now, and as you can likely tell from the title, my mom is married to someone who isn't my dad. They got married 4 years ago and they started dating about 6 years ago. I was actually living in another country at the time, studying overseas. I only came back home briefly for the wedding and only came back officially last year. So I haven't spent much time with my mom's husband, but being truthful, even if I had, given the age I was when they got together, I wouldn't see him as my dad or my parent, which is why he stunned me by telling me that he wanted to give me away at my wedding. He told me he looked forward to doing it for all 3 of his girls. He has 2 daughters and a son, so I guess he counted me as well. And he also said he was excited at the thought of me being the first that he gives away. Now, I just didn't like the way he worded it, where he said says that he's giving me away, or the fact that he approached me about this when he had no hand in raising me. But my mom loves him, so I was kind. I said it was a sweet offer, a lovely gesture, but I wasn't very comfortable with that, and we could figure out something else for him to do if he wanted to be more involved in the wedding. When I said that, this was met with him questioning why I'd say no, and him saying that he thought I would be happier to have him do it. He said, given that I have no father in my life, and that I grew up with no close adult males, this is the only option that truly made sense. So I pointed out to him that I had my mom who raised and sacrificed for me, but he was like, yeah, but she's no man. And I told him that I didn't plan to have a very traditional wedding, so mom doing it wouldn't be strange at all. He genuinely never considered the fact that I would ask mom, and he became very emotional when I brought this up. It was a mixture of embarrassment, sadness, and frustration, and he was word vomiting all over the place. It got on my nerves because he was clearly not okay with me saying no to him. He told me that he should have been my first choice, and it made no sense that he wasn't when he's the only father figure that I have. Well, I told him that I never even considered asking him for the very reason that he's not my father figure or my parent, and that role goes more to a parent generally than a parent's new spouse. He looked so offended and told me the fact I never considered him a valid option really stung. He then said to me, well, in that case, you can't have my money. I asked him what he meant, and he said that he had been expecting to pay and that my mom had mentioned money, but I told him that was nothing to do with him. It was money my mom saved for my wedding as I was growing up, that she had saved long before he was ever in the picture. I told my mom what happened, and she was so embarrassed that he acted that way. She said that she would have a talk with him, but I got a text message not too long after from him that reminded me I had hurt his feelings and offended him. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk at all. This guy literally tried to step in and be like, well, you don't have any father figures in your life, so I'll just step in and be your dad and give you away. And you know what? I'm right there with the original poster. Saying that you're gonna give away the original poster sounds really creepy in my opinion. And also, you did not raise her. She literally only met you very recently, and you have played no role in her upbringing. For him to try and stake a claim over that is just really out of line. And there's a level of entitlement there that is just completely inappropriate. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all for telling the truth, because this guy needed to find out one way or the other. And in my opinion, I think it was better to break the ice now, instead of having to deal with this the closer you get to your wedding. My parents left my 3-year-old daughter in the middle of a swimming pool for a short while all on her own. And although she did successfully get out of the pool, my wife and I are very freaked out. And at this point, we don't know how we should address this. Here's what happened. So I'm currently on holiday with my parents, as they invited me and my family to their friend's apartment with a pool. They also paid for the flights, and my mom recently retired. Now, there's been a few incidents over the years where I've noticed that they haven't prioritized the safety of my 2 kids. And for reference, one kid is 3 years old and the other is 1 year old. For example, I walked into my infant son halfway up their stairs, and this is while they were supposed to be watching him. They also haven't separated my kids from their dog after it's growled and snapped at them. I've also found out that they adjusted the car seat that I fitted in their car, so it was easier to put the kid in, but now it wasn't installed per guidance, and basically I'm not sure it would do anything in a crash. Also, I've unbuckled my daughter from car seat harnesses, and it's been very loose, and that's because if they tighten her in, they don't know how to loosen it again. Now anyways, we are on holiday, and they offered to take my daughter to the pool, and they said this to her and not me, so she got super excited. I looked over at my wife and we just kind of let it happen. I watched from the balcony and they played with her, and she had a lot of fun. She had her float vest on and she thinks that she can swim. You can take your hands off of her and she can flap her legs and arms around, but it is definitely not swimming. She can doggy paddle a short distance, but that's about it. Also, my mom can't swim either. After I watched anxiously for about 20 minutes, they decided to come back up, and my dad, who had her in the deep end, seemed to ask her to swim by herself to the shallow end, where she can somewhat stand up, while he got out, grabbed his things, and then walked around and collected her from the shallow end. Now, my wife was completely panicking while this was happening, and ended up shouting from the balcony, which is not like her, as she is very unconfrontational. I watched and whistled to get their attention, but I didn't want to make the situation worse or into something that it wasn't. And in fairness, my daughter did manage to somewhat swim, and then walk to the shallow end where they collected her. When they returned, they said one little girl safely returned, and I said, yeah, just about. You left her in the deep end. And then they looked at us and said, no, we didn't. And at that exact moment, my son fell and hit his face on a table, and I had to go and deal with it. So seriously, how can I readdress this? Am I overreacting in some kind of way? Bear in mind, fine. I'm stuck in an apartment with them for the time being, and we want to enjoy the holiday as best as we can. What should we do? First of all, I don't think you overreacted at all, and I think your wife is the only one who reacted properly. I understand that you didn't want to make the situation worse than what it was, but seriously, they completely abandoned your daughter in the pool, and they expected her to swim over to the shallow end as if she's some kind of like good swimmer. But here's a fun fact, she's only 3. You can't possibly expect a 3-year-old to be that responsible and not mess up in some kind of way. If she were older, sure, that might be understandable, but she's only a toddler, like asking them, okay, go to the shallow end. Like that could have gone really poorly. What if she slipped out of her vest and sunk to the bottom of the pool? It doesn't sound like the grandparents are attentive to this kid in the slightest. There's a good chance she probably could have drowned before they would have even noticed. So in my opinion, I think it's time, at least while you're at this friend's apartment, to no longer allow them to watch your kid unsupervised. They clearly just don't watch the kids properly, and they're letting these kids get in situations that really could injure them. Especially the car seat situation that you're talking about, like that is insane to me. You do not mess with those things, and you need to make sure it's properly fitted, because if there was a car crash, you need to make sure that it would protect the kid. Because right now, it seems like they're being very negligent or at least really relaxed about your kid's safety. And if I was in this scenario, I definitely would put my foot down and say that enough is enough. Am I the jerk for refusing to give in to my stepmother's demands during therapy by bringing in a letter that my stepmom hates, that my biological mom left me before she passed away? Here's what happened. I'm a 16-year-old male, and my parents broke up when I was just a few weeks old. They were never married, and they were like maybe 19 or 20 years old when they had me, so they were pretty young. They didn't get along so good, but they could be sort of civil to each other. It really depends on what was going on, I think, because sometimes they stayed away from each other. When I was 6 years old, my dad met my stepmother, and they got married by the time I was 7. But my mom and stepmother did not get along at all. I remember feeling the tension between them, and I remember hearing my stepmother grumble to dad about mom if I had to go to their house instead of home with mom after they had been all in the same place. It was extra bad if they all showed up to my dance recitals too. My stepmother wanted to be the one doing some of the dance stuff. She used to tell my dad that she didn't think that she'd have much in common with a young boy, but dance could be our thing, and mom was hogging it by always being there. Mom was the person who signed me up for dance, and dad wasn't on board back then. And my guess is because he's too much of a macho dude for that. My mom got sick when I was 8 years old, and she passed away when I was 10. The worst part of that time was when she got too sick to take care of me and had to live with my dad all the time. I still saw my mom, but it wasn't the same. Before she died, she wrote me a letter and told me to read it whenever I needed to feel close to her. She said she put all her love into that letter, and she also left me cards for milestones. But my mom's original letter made my stepmother so angry. I never call my stepmother mom or anything like that, and I never call her my parent either. I know that she technically is, but I always disliked the idea of her being called that because she hated mom so much and felt like mom needed to take a step back from stuff just to let her take over for them. Kind of like with the dance situation. My stepmother is pissed that my mom never mentioned her in the letter and that mom never let my stepmother in. She felt like mom put a final wall between us and made sure that she would always be the outsider in my eyes, and I would always long for my mom and reject her as a mother figure. Our relationship is very tense, while things with my dad are better than they were when I was younger. He ended up getting softer, so he said the 3 of us should go to therapy together to figure stuff out. After 2 months of therapy, my stepmother wants my mom's letter brought into sessions, and the counselor feels like that's a good idea, and we should discuss the content of it since it is such a point of tension. But I don't want my stepmother anywhere near it. She is poison when it comes to my mom, and I don't want her to taint it in the slightest. The counselor told me that it would only benefit all of us. My stepmom got mad and said even a piece of paper is more important to me than she is. We had 2 sessions since then, and I still did not bring it, and this made my stepmother's anger even worse. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because it sounds like your stepmom is using therapy as a weapon against you. She's literally using this counselor as like a hammer to try and take out your mom once and for all, because I can guarantee you if you brought that letter into therapy, your stepmother is only going to tear it apart and try and taint your memory of your mom, and that is not fair for you in the slightest. And it's also a red flag to me that the counselor can't see that this is really uncomfortable for you. Like sure, it's a point of contention for the stepmom, but only because it seems like she's a narcissist and very controlling. Like if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. Also, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have like a safe box or some kind of like box in general where you can store these precious items that your mom gave you. Because from the sounds of it, it seems like your stepmom would destroy all of that if given the chance. chance. She's clearly jealous of your mom and the way that she raised you, and the fact that you value her over your stepmom. But then again, who can blame you? Your stepmom's behavior is super toxic. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all, but I really think you need to keep those items safe from your stepmother, because I guarantee you, if you give her the chance, she 100% would definitely destroy it. A group of old entitled Karens are constantly hassling me when I try to take my dog out to go to the bathroom, and I'm honestly so frustrated with this, and right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I live in a condominium complex, and my boyfriend owns our unit. We pay a monthly HOA fee just like everybody else, but it seems like when I take my dog out to relieve herself, some of the old people here like to tell me where she can and cannot pee. If she pees on certain plots of grass and they see me, they come out and say that she can only pee in the dog park. And the dog park that they're referring to is literally just a big plot of grass with benches in the back of the complex that these annoying entitled Karens designated as a space for dogs. Now mind you, these people don't own any of the grass here. The only personal property is their own unit, backyard, and patio, and anything outside of that is community property that all of us are paying for the upkeep of through the HOA. There's a lady who lives next to me who loves to open her door and stand outside to watch me occasionally, and this lady is such a menace. This morning, my dog was peeing on grass next to her unit, and she opens the door to fuss at my dog to go away, and she just has this attitude as she tells me that the dog needs to pee in the dog park. Well, I raised my voice back, and I told her that my dog can pee right here, and then I walked away once my dog was done. Anyways, it seems like I keep getting in conflicts with these people, and it even got really heated once. I'm not sure what the best course of action is, but I've already spoken with management, and they told me my dog is free to go on whichever grass she wants, but this is literally just the way some of these old people are who have lived here for a while. So it seems like there's not much I can do besides get into arguments with these awful people. And I've even read through the entire HOA manual when I first moved here, and I've spoken to management the first time one of these people tried to start an issue, and they really did confirm that my dog can go to the bathroom anywhere she likes, and that no plot of community grass is off limits. I'm honestly just so done with these entitled Karens, and I seriously now don't know what to do. Wow, these people are obnoxious. Like, you have a neighbor who is literally standing by her front door and just watching you. Imagine being such a boring person that all you can ever do is bother somebody else who is literally just trying to live their life. Like, you're not doing anything wrong, you're just trying to walk your dog. Meanwhile, Karen and her gang of idiots are trying to make up rules in the HOA by being like, oh yeah, you can only have your dog go to the bathroom in that corner. Like, that is such an obnoxious attitude, and seriously, I would not put up with that. So in my opinion, I think it might be time to have some kind of like certified letter or some kind of notice publicly posted so these people can see that, because clearly these old people just like to make up their own rules and have some kind of control over the area they live in. Because I know if I was in your shoes, I would be reacting the exact same way. I would be very upset and very annoyed, because the way these Karens are talking to you, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for asking our neighbor to have her adult son turn his music down at midnight? Because after we came over, she slammed the door in our faces, and at this point, we seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, our neighbor is an older woman who lives alone. Her son, who is in his mid-40s, lived with her for a while, moved out to his older sister's place, but frequently comes over and spends the night at his mom's house. His bedroom window is directly across from mine, and he loves house music, which is dope because I do too. However, he has a habit of blasting his music during the late night hours, and this is typically from 11 o'clock p.m. until 1 o'clock in the morning. Well, fast forward to tonight, and it's now 11 o'clock, and he is starting to play his house music. I've got my window open because it is midsummer, and it gets really hot here at night. He's got his window open as well, so the music is blaring directly into my room. Fortunately, he's got good taste in music, but unfortunately, I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning for work. So we let it rock out until midnight, and sure enough, he is still going hard. I'm talking like 15-minute long 7 Nation Army remix hard. It ends up getting louder, at which point we decide to go next door to request that he either turn it down just a little bit or close his window. Mind you, we had no intention of asking him to shut it off. We just wanted him to turn it down or close the window, just so every lyric and instrument isn't audible in my room. So that's exactly what we do. We go next door, we knock, and his mom answers the door. At first, she doesn't even open the door. She just looks at us through the side window and says, "What?" So we calmly, politely request that she have her son turn the music down, or even just shut his window, as we are trying to sleep in preparation for the Monday workday. Well, she then opens the door, and before we can even explain further, she shouts at us,
He's hardly here, so it's not like it's happening all the time. So please, don't complain.
I try to explain that we aren't there to try and bother him, but before I can even finish, she says to me,
Well, that's too bad.
and then proceeds to slam the door in our faces. We go back to the house and I'm honestly flabbergasted. We usually get along fine with the both of them. In fact, I was just in the yard chatting with her for an hour about our local mourning dove population not even a month ago. I used to bring her son fruit from our yard when the season was on. Everything was normal. So seriously, where's this hostility coming from? Like, I have no idea. So what gives? Am I the jerk here? Were we being totally unreasonable? It feels bad considering we've gotten along well as neighbors in all the years that we've lived beside one another. What should we do? I don't think you're the jerk at all. It is literally midnight going into the Monday work week. There is no reason for him to be playing music that loudly. How can this lady not understand that maybe people need to get up early for work the next day, and that playing music as loud as possible at midnight is not the appropriate thing to do to your neighbors? So no, you're definitely not the jerk, and I know if that was me, especially after this interaction, I would be calling for a noise complaint the next time he tries to do that. Because hey, you've tried to be reasonable, you tried to take the nice approach, but these people shut you down. And in my opinion, if they want to play stupid games, then they are more than welcome to win stupid prizes. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.